One random morning commute, a machete, and a tragic encounter captured entirely on camera. That basically just changed the way we understand urban transit safety.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it is a stark collision of so many different things.
Welcome to the deep dive. Right now, you are looking at a collision of public safety, mental health, and, well, police technology.
Exactly.
Just yesterday, on April 11, 2026, a deadly machete attack unfolded right at New York City's Grand Central Terminal.
Which is just terrifying for anyone who takes the train.
Totally. A man struggling with severe mental illness attacked 3 elderly commuters before police stepped in and ended the threat.
And he attacked them completely at random, which is the scariest part.
Right. So today we are taking a stack of intense sources. We've got NYPD crime statistics, breaking news transcripts, internal body-worn camera policy documents, and incident reports to basically piece together exactly what happened.
Yeah, we really want to dig into the mechanics of this.
Our mission for this deep dive is to look past the breaking news headlines. We are going to explore the raw data driving police into the subways, the strict rules governing the cameras that record their every move, and what this means for you the next time you rely on public transit.
Because when you swipe your card and walk through those turnstiles, you're stepping into a heavily regulated environment. It's shaped by massive amounts of data.
It's an invisible web.
Right, an invisible web.
Yeah.
And we want to lay out those hidden systems so you can actually understand how they operated in real time yesterday.
Let's start with the catalyst, just the sheer chaos on the platforms. Walk us through the factual timeline of what happened.
Sure. So the suspect was a 44-year-old man named Anthony Griffin.
Okay.
And in the Bronx, he was apparently known as a battle rapper.
Yeah.
He went by the name Fox 5.
Fox 5, right. I saw that in the breaking news transcripts. Another artist from his community mentioned that Griffin had a pretty long, difficult struggle with severe mental illness.
Yeah, he did. But here is where the NYPD sources add a very specific, a very important layer.
What's that?
Griffin had 3 prior unsealed arrests, but he had absolutely no prior documented mental health crisis history with the NYPD.
Wait, really?
None at all.
None.
So he wasn't on the department's radar as someone prone to this specific type of violent emergency brake.
So the system had 0 warning signs that he was deteriorating to this level.
Exactly. No predictive alert whatsoever.
That is chilling. So where did this actually start? Because it wasn't at Grand Central, right?
No, it wasn't. It began around 9:30 in the morning over in Queens. Griffin started his commute on the 7 train platform at the Vernon Boulevard station.
Okay, so a pretty normal morning hour.
Right. And while he was waiting there, completely unprovoked, he slashed an 84-year-old man across the head with a machete.
Oh my God, an 84-year-old man just standing on the platform.
Yeah, and then, in the chaos, he somehow manages to board the train before anyone can stop him.
So he gets on the 7 train, takes it under the East River, and rides it all the way into Manhattan.
Right, eventually arriving at Grand Central Terminal.
And from the transit reports, it says he moved upstairs from the 7 train level.
Yeah, he went up to the 4, 5, and 6 train platform. And, I mean, anyone who rides the subway knows this specific spot.
Oh, absolutely. It is a massive subterranean bottleneck.
Right. It is one of the busiest, loudest, most chaotic transfer points in the whole city. Just packed with commuters and tourists.
So you have a guy in a severe mental crisis moving from a relatively quiet Queens platform into just peak sensory overload.
Exactly. And that environment seems to be where the violence accelerates. The reports show he attacked 2 more people at random, right there on the Grand Central platform.
Just horrible.
He slashed a 70-year-old woman in the shoulder, and then he struck a 65-year-old man with such force that it actually caused an open skull fracture.
Wow. The sheer randomness of it is just terrifying. You have everyday people going about their routines, you know?
Yeah, completely random.
Although the medical updates do indicate all 3 of those elderly victims survived.
Yes, thank goodness.
They are in stable condition, which is a massive relief. But, man, the scene on the platform itself must have been total chaos.
Total panic. You have passengers running for the exits, screaming for help. But amid that panic, a civilian actually manages to flag down 2 transit detectives.
Right, and they were working an overtime post nearby.
Exactly. They push through the fleeing crowd, get to the platform, and according to the police commissioner's briefing, they find Griffin acting completely erratically.
What was he doing?
He was repeatedly calling himself Lucifer and just waving the weapon around.
Wow.
So the detectives immediately stepped in to take control of the situation. And they gave him at least 20 distinct commands to drop the machete.
20 commands. That is a really significant detail.
Yeah, it is.
Because it shows they didn't just arrive and start shooting. They were trying to slow the momentum down.
Right. The audio from the incident captures them actively attempting to de-escalate the whole thing.
Yeah.
They told him, we're going to get you help.
So they recognized it was a severe mental health crisis.
Yeah, they explicitly offered him a verbal off-ramp.
But the mental break was just too severe. He didn't take it.
He did not.
Oh.
Instead of dropping the weapon, Griffin advanced toward the officers with the blade extended.
Right.
And facing an immediate armed threat closing the distance, one of the officers fired his weapon twice.
Striking Griffin.
Yes, and he later died at Bellevue Hospital.
It sounds like a tragic chain reaction. You have a bustling transit hub acting like a pressure cooker, and suddenly a mental health crisis just shatters the routine.
It really does.
But wait, here's what I don't get. How did the police get there so fast? You said there were 2 transit detectives nearby who got flagged down.
Right.
Is that just a massive coincidence, like a stroke of luck? Or is there a bigger strategy at play here?
It wasn't luck at all, actually. It was a direct result of hard mathematics.
Really? Explain that.
The reason those specific officers were stationed in that exact station traces back to a deliberate shift in NYPD deployment strategy. Just a few weeks prior to this attack, in March 2026, the NYPD deployed over 175 extra officers directly into the subway system.
Flooding the zone with 175 additional officers is a massive logistical operation. They don't just pull that kind of manpower out of thin air.
No, they don't. They pulled that manpower because the January 2026 MTA crime report basically forced their hand.
What did the report say?
The city analysts looked at the numbers and saw a trend they just could not ignore. Total major felonies in the transit system had increased by 6.1% compared to the previous year.
I mean, a 6.1% increase is concerning, but in a system that moves millions of people a day, it doesn't sound entirely catastrophic.
Right, the overall number wasn't the main issue. It was what was driving that number.
Which was?
Robberies. While things like felony assaults stayed relatively flat and grand larcenies actually dropped, robberies surged a massive 51.7%.
Whoa, over 50%.
Yeah. They jumped from 29 incidents the previous January to 44 incidents.
Okay, a 50% spike in robberies completely changes the baseline of safety in the system.
Exactly.
Yep.
So the NYPD explicitly stated that the focus for these 175 extra officers was to stop violence and respond to immediate threats.
Right, to be proactive.
Yeah, they wanted a highly visible presence standing on the platforms rather than officers above ground reacting to 911 calls, minutes after a crime already happened.
Okay, let's unpack this, though, because I'm looking at the deployment stats, and I want to push back a little.
Sure.
The stats show major crimes went up, so the city floods the zone with 175 more cops. But the data also shows total transit arrests actually dropped by 3.1%.
That's right.
Meanwhile, officers massively increased the enforcement of tiny infractions. They issued 31.3% more written summonses. That is over 18,000 summonses in January alone.
It's a huge number.
Right. So are we just aggressively ticketing people for jumping a $2.90 turnstile? How does that actually make the person waiting for the 6 train safer?
It's a great question. You are pointing to the underlying mechanism of what they call omnipresence policing.
Omnipresence policing, what does that mean exactly?
It operates on deterrence theory. When officers are stopping people for smaller violations, like fare evasion or quality of life issues, they are highly visible.
Oh, I see.
They are physically walking the platforms, they are making constant contact with the public, and they are standing near the turnstiles, writing out those tickets.
So it's a psychological thing. It's not necessarily just about collecting a fine.
Exactly. When a potential offender sees an officer physically present, writing a ticket, it sends a subconscious signal that this environment is actively monitored.
It raises the perceived risk of, say, trying to rob someone on that platform.
Right. The objective isn't merely to drive up arrest numbers. It's a shift from reactive policing to proactive visibility.
By strictly enforcing the smaller rules, they create a web where major crimes are physically harder to commit anonymously.
You nailed it. And on the morning of April 11, the practical result of that specific data-driven strategy meant 2 detectives were already stationed on the Grand Central platform.
Close enough to hear a commuter yell for help.
Yes. Close enough to intervene and stop a deadly attack before more people were targeted.
So they were physically present because the raw data demanded it.
Yep.
But physical presence is really only half the story here, because the only reason we know for a fact that those officers gave exactly 20 commands.
Right. The only reason we know they tried to verbally de-escalate
Is because of the technology they wear. every single second of the Grand Central incident was recorded.
The body-worn cameras.
Exactly. And this brings us to the lens of accountability. You don't just pin a camera to an officer's uniform and tell them to go patrol.
Oh, definitely not. There is a dense, highly debated policy manual dictating exactly how and when those cameras operate in 2026.
The NYPD operates the largest body-worn camera program in the U.S., right?
They do. They outfit over 29,500 officers. And the policies governing those cameras were just updated in February 2026
Why the update?
to comply with the PSD Act. That stands for the Public Oversight of Surveillance Technology Act.
Right. And for anyone unfamiliar, the PPOS Act basically forces the police department to publish the exact rules for any surveillance tech they use.
Yeah, it's designed to remove the secrecy around how citizens are monitored.
So under these new 2026 rules, what are the mandates?
Well, officers must activate their cameras before engaging in any, quote, police action.
Okay, so responding to crimes in progress.
Right, taking statements, and very importantly for this case, it explicitly includes responding to individuals in mental health crises.
But wait, if you're riding the subway right now, you might wonder how an officer has time to press a record button when a man with a machete is suddenly charging at them.
Yeah, human reaction time is slow.
Right. I saw the technical specs and the sources, and the solution to that problem sounds almost like time travel. Explain how the 60-second pre-event buffer works.
It is a brilliant mechanical workaround. So when an officer's camera is simply powered on, meaning they're just walking their beat, it is constantly recording a 60-second loop of video.
But just video, right? No audio.
Correct. No audio, just a continuous visual loop. It records 60 seconds, deletes it, records the next 60 seconds, deletes it, over and over in the background.
It's essentially like a car dash cam that only permanently saves the footage when you get into a crash.
Exactly. Except here, the crash is the officer deciding a situation has escalated.
So when they finally hit the event button on their chest, the camera reaches back in time and saves the 60 seconds of video that happened right before they pressed it.
Yes, it guarantees the preservation of context.
That's incredible.
Because if a situation erupts in a split second and the officer doesn't have the physical time to press record until they're already drawing their weapon, we still get to see the entire minute leading up to the chaos.
We get to see the catalyst.
Right. Now, once they do hit that button, it starts recording both audio and video continuously until the event is concluded.
And because the officer at Grand Central fired his weapon, this footage is categorized differently, right?
Very differently. Under the policy, anytime an officer discharges a firearm or uses force resulting in death or serious injury, it is automatically classified as a critical incident.
And that classification strips away a lot of the department's discretion. They are legally forced to show the public what happened.
Yes. By strict rule, the NYPD must publicly release a representative sample of that footage within 30 days of the incident.
30 days?
And they are required to notify prosecutors 7 days in advance of that release, or 24 hours in massive emergencies. But the core rule remains. The public will see the footage.
But what happens to the raw data? Does the city just hoard millions of hours of subway footage forever?
No, the data retention rules are extremely specific.
Okay, how long do they keep it?
It depends on the severity. If the video records a homicide, the NYPD is mandated to keep it forever.
Makes sense.
If the encounter results in an arrest, they must keep the video for 5 years for the courts.
And for everything else.
For all other standard encounters or stops, the data is retained for exactly 39 months before it is automatically purged.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you as a listener. We hear constantly about AI and smart surveillance, right?
Yeah, constantly.
The NYPD has the technology to instantly identify almost anyone. Why does the department intentionally block their body cameras from running facial recognition or AI in real time?
Yeah, the updated 2026 policy draws a deliberate, hard boundary on that. It explicitly states that body-worn cameras do not use video analytics or real-time facial recognition during recording.
It's a fascinating choice. If they have the tech to spot a wanted suspect in a dense crowd, why disable that feature on the very officers patrolling the area?
It comes down to human bias and the known flaws in the technology.
Okay, how so?
Real-time facial recognition is notoriously imperfect, particularly in chaotic, poorly lit environments, like a subway platform.
Right, the lighting is terrible down there.
Exactly. So if an AI program falsely identifies a commuter as a dangerous suspect and flashes an alert to an officer's camera, it could cause that officer to escalate a situation unnecessarily.
Wow. So the policy is designed to prevent a computer algorithm from making split-second policing decisions.
Precisely. The camera is designed to act strictly as an objective witness of what the officer physically sees and hears.
So the tool is for an objective review after the fact, not for active hunting in the moment.
Right. There is a specific workflow built into the rules. Detectives are allowed to pull a still image from a recorded video days later and run that picture through facial recognition during a controlled investigation.
But standing on the platform in the heat of the moment, the camera is just a camera?
Exactly. It creates a definitive, unalterable record of reality.
It shows the officers issuing 20 commands, attempting to offer help, and ultimately making the split-second decision to fire when Griffin advanced with the blade.
It completely removes the guesswork from the aftermath of a tragedy.
Let's bring this deep dive full circle. We started with a horrifying sudden attack on an ordinary morning commute.
We did.
But when you pull back the layers of the source material, you see three distinct threads weaving together.
Yeah, first, you have a heartbreaking random act of violence committed by a man deep in a mental health crisis, without any prior warning signs in the police database.
Second, you have a transit system flooded with new officers standing on those platforms because a massive 50% statistical spike in robberies dictated their physical presence.
Right. And third, you have an unblinking camera lens operating on a 60-second time travel buffer.
Bound by strict legal transparency rules, capturing every second to ensure the public knows the objective truth.
It is a really powerful realization. When you walk down the stairs into the subway tomorrow, you are standing inside a massive mechanism.
You really are. It is an environment engineered by crime statistics, proactive deterrence strategies, and advanced accountability tech.
It changes how you view a normal commute. We rely on these hidden systems to keep us safe.
The extra officers were there, and they stopped a horrific tragedy from becoming much worse. And the cameras operate flawlessly, giving us a perfect record after it starts.
We can clearly see the officers giving warnings and trying to offer help to a man who was, sadly, beyond reaching.
But if you look closely, all these systems share one crucial limitation. The cameras only capture the final minutes of a crisis.
Right. They turn on when the threat is already critical.
The officers are deployed to respond to violence that is already happening.
Exactly.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you to consider today. The body cameras give us a perfect objective record after a tragedy starts. But if the technology and the police are both designed to respond to the end of the line, what needs to change in our society to catch the mental health crisis before the camera ever needs to be turned on?